My name is Thomas Mikusz with White Bear PR. To my left is Nainita Desai. She is nominated for 14 Peaks, Nothing is Impossible. Michelino Bisceglia, nominated for Charlotte. He's a previous Public Choice Award winner. Welcome to the panel. Next to Michelino, we have John Coda, an LA native, and he's nominated together with Joseph and with Grant for The King's Daughter. So it's my pleasure to also introduce Grant Kirkhope and Joseph Metcalfe. Is that correct? I should have asked.
That's it. You did great. You did great.
And then to my right, Frank Gilfman, nominated for Gunpowder Milkshake, previous Saturn Award winner, and you come from England.
That's right, yeah.
So today's conversation should be more a conversation, so if we could do it in a way where it's not me asking the same question every way, but have a conversation if possible. And so I think one of the questions I often get from young composers is, how do you get a job? So maybe you can give practical advice based on your current project. How did you actually get the job, and how do you get jobs? Do you get jobs through agents? Do you get them yourself? Do you make connections at film festivals? Does one job lead to another? So whoever wants to start.
I think that probably the biggest thing I would say when you're starting off in any business relationship is that it's about the relationship. You've got to build a relationship with your director or the producer or whoever it is who's leading the film, because especially when it comes to music, they need to trust who they're putting the music, the job of the music, whose hands they're putting that into. And if you've got that responsibility, it comes because you've built that trust. They know you, they know they're investing into you because they need to get it back. So I think the very first and foremost is look at building relationships before going around just saying, hey, look, here's my stuff. The second thing I would also add to that is that it's really difficult to say what door is going to be open to you. Because we go around, we're looking for doors, and most of the people that I know who've actually made that entrance into it have actually taken the initiative to almost make the door themselves. Mm-hmm. To say, hey, look, if the door doesn't exist or it's not opening, find your angle. I know that the music supervisor on this soundtrack release, getting her break into music supervision was simply like wanting to get credits. And she then went and made her own movie to start getting the credits. And that's, again, that same way of just taking the initiative and saying, let's go get the job. Be brave, be bold.
So I feel like you have to find, and everyone's path is different, but you have to find the way to get to the people that are doing the thing you want to do, whatever that is. And I feel like most of us composers are pretty introvert, and we don't like talking to people. We like sitting in darkened rooms for 8 hours a day and not talking to anybody. At least I do. Not even the kids, right? But I mean, I feel like you have to be able to do that, put on that face where you're Mr. Jolly or Mrs. Jolly, for the things you need to be, and then when you can go back to your normal, miserable self, when you're not doing those things. And I kind of feel like that kind of the two faces that you see, the actors, the happy and the sad face. I feel like really applies to all creative people, not just actors and composers too. And I feel like you have to be able to manufacture that persona. So when you do bump into people, you just don't know what to say. You've got to have, and it's super, super hard. I know it really, really is, and I hate it as much as anybody does. But you have to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting what you talk about, because I see that a lot with composers, that you sit in the studio and then you go to composer events, which is good. You want to exchange with your peers. You want to maybe you want to get an assistant job, but it's not necessarily the decision makers that get you jobs. So in your case, if you want to, or Nainita, you also do video games. If you know who you are as an artist and where you want to go in your career, and then you want to do video games, you might go to GDC or you go to Gamescom, somewhere where there's developers, somewhere there's people that play video games. If you want to do a doc, you might go to Sheffield or a festival for documentary. So I think the first step is to know who you are as an artist, where you want to go in your career. And then you have to actually step out, or instead of a composer panel, maybe go to the Directors Guild or the Producers Guild, and also I always feel it's such a collaborative job, so don't disregard a director of photography, a picture editor. It's all.
Yeah, they always have an influence in a way, and I think also, like I meet a lot of composers who goes to they'll go to different festivals, Cannes, Venice, Berlin, and this, and they'll we're all hustling for work, and it's what we do and what we want to do. But I think there's no point to go to a festival, any festival, unless you're invited, and trying to get work. I think it's good to go make connection on a friendly basis, you know, that you have a good story, you know, and not about changing car to this, because if you do that and it's more personal, that person will remember you, you know, in the future, and then he may not have a job, but I'll say, you know what, I met this composer, we had a really good time, he seemed like a great guy or a girl, and, you know, I think you should contact them, listen to their music, you know, and I think that's more important to have that personal relationship than just to say to somebody, hey, do you need music? Because when you go to festivals, director and producers usually, you know, the last thing on their mind is, oh, I need a composer, you know, because if they need a composer, they know who to...
And they're hustling too.
Exactly, yeah.
But I want to hear your take, because I met you in Cannes, and you've been working even when you didn't have films there, and so I want to hear how that worked for you.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we're all hustling. I hate that word hustling, because, I mean, we all want to recreate and so on. But what I've learned, my path has been, you know, when I go to film festivals and I network and I meet people, you never know where your next opportunity is coming from. And so if you there's no point in trying to approach Denis Villeneuve or, you know, some great filmmaker, because, you know, you're, as an emerging composer, they're not going to even look at you. So what I do is, you know, I socialise with everyone. You know, it can be the third AD, or it could be an editor or cinematographers, and going to those panels and talks is really important, because I learn about the holistic craft of filmmaking or video game making and so on. So, and then when I meet filmmakers at events, I don't tell them what I do for a living. I just get talking to them. I talk their language. I talk about what they do. I speak the language of film. I don't communicate about music at all. And then say, I'm looking for a makeup artist. And in my pocket, I met a makeup artist, and so I share. And it's, you know, it's all about what can I do for them, not what they can do for me. You know, it's like, of course I want to work with you as a potential collaborator and a client, but when I have people approaching me in terms of assistants or orchestrators or whatever, you know, I get emails from potential assistants all the time, and it's like, I want to do this, yes, but as an employee, as a head of department, what can you do for me? And so when I get a clearly concise email from a person who has a really interesting skill set, like a great guitarist who's good at manipulating with pedals and sounds, or is really great at creating sampler instruments, I think, there's someone that I can use, okay? And so then I might bring them on board to help me, and then they talk about, then eventually as the months go by, then they will expand on, I can see what they can do, and it's about trust, and I trust them. I think, okay, have a go at this, have a go at that, and sort of expand on that. So I help other people, as opposed to me trying to look desperate with, you know, I need a job on my forehead.
You never know who is around, but people knows more about you than sometimes you are aware of. In my case, I also perform as a pianist. I play concerts, I play around, and with this Charlotte, it happened that I was doing a job where I had to do an opening for a Tim Burton exposition, and he came to the concert. He was there, and I rearranged his music, and he was really happy what I did. And at the same concert, I was a co-producer of Charlotte also. So he was I think he was impressed about what was going on in that show. A few months later on, he reached out to me and wanted to get me on the job for doing this Charlotte film.
It didn't happen overnight for me. It was very, very gradual. Don't quit your day job, you know, and just the hustling and bustling. And I think, yeah, knowing those key people, an editor would probably, if I were to give advice, you know, know an editor, give them your library. Hey, do you want to temp? Can you temp my music?
Or music editor as well.
I'm sorry, yes. Music editor,
well,
music supervisors, all the key people that are involved with the decision process of hiring.
I think also do short films or student
films.
Because that's the next generation.
Yeah. I remember I had no experience. Nobody had paid me any money to write music. So there was this directory called The Knowledge, and there was a listing of 100 companies in it, film, TV production companies, video games. and I made 100 cassettes, and I sent off 100 show reels, and a month later I had replies from 2 of them. And those 2, one was a video game company that I went for a meeting with, and he said, I've got 6 developers making games for me. Would you like me to introduce you to them? I thought, oh my God, it's like a dream. So I got introduced to all these little developers, and I started doing sound effects and music for them. And the other one was a corporate company that I did a corporate video for Barclays Bank, a little 2-minute video. And then eventually, you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, never giving up. I think I'm probably here today because purely out of tenacity and never giving up.
I played in rock bands for 11 years when I left university. I did music, that kind of thing. And just, at all levels, where I was playing in from the worst £25 a night pub rock band, and to supporting in the band that supported Bon Jovi on a tour and Van Halen and people like that, so I did all that kind of rock star stuff, No, I wasn't a rock star, but, it was a fantastic experience getting to play at those levels at these gigantic gigs, even though you're the opening act and no one cares who you are. But, that kind of thing, you got to see how it all worked. From 22 to 33, it just kind of went, hooray, and oh dear, it's all going to go wrong, and everyone broke up, nothing happened. And it's pure fluke that I got a job working at a company in the UK called Rare that were mega successful making games. It was a complete fluke. I was terrible at harmony. I failed the harmony exam 3 years out of 4 at university. I couldn't pass it. And if I didn't pass it, I wouldn't get the degree. I just scraped by my last year. Terrible at harmony. I didn't understand it at all. What composing was a useless thing to do. I never dreamt about doing it. I just feel like you just never know, how it's going. But I just think you got to chase it until you can't chase it anymore.
I actually would go against that. I don't think it was a fluke, because I know how hard you work and I know how hard you push. And the thing is you get to know everybody. I also think composers in today's generation actually wear many different hats. You're not just a composer. You are your agent. You are your graphic designer. You're your website builder. Because unless you've got loads of money flowing in and you're gifted that way, you've got to make it happen. You've got to make it work. And I think that to get your confidence levels up, nothing beats confidence than just getting up and doing something. Because if you're not doing, you're not moving. And if you're not moving, you're not going anywhere. So I would say, be confident, find that confidence within yourself to say, have I woken up today and treated myself like I'm a business? Have I said, okay, I'm a composer, the work should come to me? Or have I said, okay, am I in the office at 9 o'clock in the morning? Have I picked up the phone and made my phone calls that I need to make? Have I fine-tuned or polished this? Have I seen what movie needs to be made? And you treat yourself like a business, and you'll treat yourself like a business with unpaid overtime, a lot of unpaid overtime, because even when you're paid, you're doing a lot of unpaid overtime as well. But it's the passion that drives you, and you've got to keep that going. And once you've got it, you know it, and that confidence just oozes.
The more you write, the more you get your identity structured, and your own personality kind of gets more defined. And I think also having good mentors, I think, is very important. I started very early when they were still working on 35 mil, and using cassettes and barely any recording, and we know how it is. And I had amazing mentors that gave me good advice. And I think every bit, you grasp. And I think one thing in a lot of schools or colleges, when they teach, music for media of sorts, they don't teach you how it is in the real world, where it's a lot of, interacting with people, getting, every time you play something for a director, you always think, it's that no that's going to come, and it's like, what else you've got? And that's the most scariest moment is when you need to play something in the room. And having good mentors and be open enough to accept criticism, and that I think will just carry you on and develop you more as a composer.
How good are you guys with not taking it personal, kind of to separate yourself from the art, kind of?
When I started, I thought, okay, they hate my music, they hate me as a person. Walter Schaff, who he passed away many years ago, but he's a great composer. He said, "It's just business. Don't worry about it. They don't hate you. It's just business." And it's somehow it kind of stuck, and it's like, yeah, at that moment, my music is not the right thing. It's not because me as a person. It's because they never met me. They just heard the music. So, it doesn't fit what they want. So it's a no. Move on. You brush it and you're moving on.
Yeah, it takes time. I mean, a little piece of me dies when I get criticised every time I hear someone criticising my music, and then I realise, it is business, and it's also you have to realise that you're working as part of a team. You're a piece of the jigsaw puzzle. It's a very, very collaborative art form. And it is an art form, and so when we're composing, I've had instances where it's 2:00 in the morning, I need to get a piece of music out, and for meeting a deadline, I thought, oh, okay, it's done, I'll send it off. And those moments, I have always regretted those moments where I send it off, I didn't put 100% of my energy into it, and then I get the notes back the next day and go, there's something that's not quite working, and I don't know what it is. I thought, damn, I should have pushed harder. And so you just learn to be resilient and not take it personally. And it's not easy. It is hard, but everyone is there to serve what's best for the project at the end of the day. So it should never be taken personally. And you have to expect that, you're working with non-musical people. And so you have, as I said earlier on, you have to speak the language of film. I don't expect them to speak the language of music. So they speak in terms of characters and emotions and storytelling. And it's our job to translate everything they're telling us into musical words. So we have to be mind readers and psychologists, and so I don't take it personally, though sometimes it can be hard, and sometimes I push back, and they're employing you because hopefully they value your creativity and your input. So when I fight is the wrong word, but when I push back and say, I need to justify the reasoning for every single note in that piece and that scene and why I've done it. And when they hear that, they go, I understand. Okay, well, maybe, this is how I see it, this is how you see it, and we can come to some kind of compromise and agreement where you're just trying to serve and do what's best for the film.
I think you have to also be careful who you're listening to, because there could be 5 people in the room, but who's the real decision maker? And it's, again, in the relationship process, you work that out. I'll never forget this my very, very first tweet I ever read on Twitter was from Ricky Gervais. And it was the most brilliant tweet I've ever read, even to this day. And he said, I've noticed exponentially as the number of people who like me increase, so too the number of people who dislike me increase. Fortunately, only the first group affects ticket sales. And so you've got to be careful who you're listening to, where the criticism's coming from. I think the most important person to listen to is yourself. Listen to your heart, listen to your soul, and then when you've been true and you've been authentic and not trying to be somebody else. It's okay to borrow somebody else's voice until you find your own.
I want to talk a little bit about collaboration in our business, and if it helps, and how to go about it. And
well, I did a Netflix series a couple of years ago. It's a friend of mine who's here in the room also, Hans Millen, so it's a great composer. And he's completely opposite of what I'm doing. I'm an orchestra. I write what I hear. I don't write if I don't hear it. I'm made like this. It's because maybe as an improviser, that's the way it goes. Friend of mine is the complete opposite. He's looking for something till he finds something that works. and it's a great collaboration because we kind of fill each other on a completely different playing field. And also I'm more in acoustic instruments, orchestra, all stuff. He's more into sounds, sound development. So together, we can spend a very large part of what music can be, then more than only notes and chords and anything like that.
Did the collaboration come out of a friendship, or did you?
Yeah, for friendship. Yeah, so we long time ago. So you know each other. Sometimes you discuss, but that's great also. And collaboration can be really, really great. It can be more than 1 + 1.
I got to say that this experience of doing The King's Daughter was I'm going to make a confession. I hated collaborating. I'm a very individual person. I was like, this is my take, this is where I want to go. And through The King's Daughter, you know, we had to cross over a lot of bridges I had to personally. And it actually came back to help me in the long run. Again, this is about this personal refinement. It's going to lock me up collaborating, whereas the reality was once we actually started working with each other and you open your mind, there's this whole new world of freedom, the whole new world of discovery. And we've put out, I mean, hundreds of pieces of music now since then, and it's been amazing.
We kind of established a language, and if it was based on a theme or whatever, or just a style of music, hearing music they were coming up with kind of got your gears turning a little. It's like, okay, they started off with maybe one idea that was established, and then they went into a different direction that I wouldn't have thought of, and I thought, oh, that's great. And so there's that element where you can feed off each other.
It's like a ping pong.
Yeah, creatively. The King's Daughter was a unique situation. We had not worked together at all, and it was like, whoa, what's going to happen here? Even though we were doing our own scenes and that kind of thing, there was kind of a synergy that was happening, whether we were aware of it or not, I thought, and the end result turned out really well.
I think, like, you know, as John said, you assemble a team, but the team also consists of like, you know, having a good, you know, your good fixer who sorts everything out for you and you can trust them, your orchestrator, you know, recording engineer, and if you do need to bring any additional composers on board, so it's people you can trust and you can say, you know, here's what I give you, and because you don't want extra headache coming in and then you need to fix that, so you need to bring, so all those people around, as you know, Nainita said, we're head of department, but that other department, it's not that it's beneath us, it's literally the same level, it's one unit, you know, if that unit doesn't function, nothing will function. Mm-hmm. So then if it doesn't function, we got more headache to deal with, so, you know, yeah.
We've kind of come in full circle in many ways, because we started off saying it's all about relationships. And guess what? You're coming around and through getting jobs and then you know, relationships and collaboration. It's you know, you said the beautiful word, which is trust. And you know, who can you trust? How can you trust them? And you know, and that just gives you then the freedom to feel spiritually connected with the music, as opposed to just saying, oh, I'm competing and combative in this, because you know the same was with all the elements of the filmmaking process. You're all trying to reach the same end goal.
Getting in that room or getting in that position where you can, you know, contribute something to a project is networking with other composers. You know,
you also never know where somebody you're working with is also going to go, and they can also, you know, take that journey together. I mean, I'm looking at Casey Stone right now, we connected, what, 20, almost 30 years ago, and just both of us coming out of college, and we start doing, you know, my first job was sweeping the streets of LA, because I had to like tape the chords down for a jazz concert we were setting up, and you know, and then look at it, you know, all these years later, and he's a mixing engineer, fantastic one, and he was our mixing engineer for The King's Daughter, but he'd also done Frozen and all the X-Men movies, and I could go on for hours. He's got this massive, huge list of it. But again, that early collaboration can take you to even higher places. So never be afraid. You never know who you're working with, where they're going to go, and how you can really go somewhere together. It's not just one person being better than. I don't want competition. I want people working together and moving forward together.
When you're co-writing, it depends on what sort of kind of capacity you're doing and your different skill sets and roles. Doesn't it fire you up to sort of compete with each other in a healthy way? You know, I mean, you know, not feeling threatened in any way, but I mean, of course, we all suffer from imposter syndrome. Well, I know I do still, you know, when I start every project. But you know, I think collaboration is a great way to bolster each other up and say, well, I'm going to have a go at that theme, and it's going to be better, and you know. But I actually started off in a writing partnership with my best friend. And for the first 4 or 5 years, and we were best friends, and he had a very different skill set to me. You know, he's classically trained. I come from world music, pop music, sound design, electronics, and music engineering. So between the two of us, we thought, why don't we form a writing partnership and work together? And it was really great up to the first 4 or 5 years. And then we fell in love, and we got married. and the dynamics changed. And so we split up professionally because he wanted to go into live performance, and he plays the double bass and is a guitarist. And and he wasn't happy being chained to a studio all day. And I'm very happy in my element. I'm in my dark space at the back of the garden, working in the recording studio 18 hours a day. And so it's great, actually, because it's saved our relationship. We thought, sometimes when you're living and working with the same person, that's really interesting. So we don't work together anymore, but we live together and we're married. And so he's kind of like my secret executive producer, because I'm in the studio all day and I go, I don't know if this piece of music's working or not. And I'll say, Malcolm, come into the studio, and he'll listen to what I've done and he'll say, that sounds like rubbish, and I've slaved away on it for 7 or 8 hours. And I go, no, you don't know what you're talking about, go away. And he'll storm off and we'll have an argument. And then he'll leave the studio and I go, actually, he's right, And those are really great when you're, as a collaboration, you're bouncing off each other and bouncing ideas.
There was like this 4-room setup where you have doors on the outside and the 4 rooms kind of met like this. And he was in one of the rooms and he had to go and write all his themes, etc. To the other side, you had Korngold, you had Alex North, and I think he said it was John Williams on the next one. So you can imagine that talent that's in that little quadrangle right there. And he said, and he was feeling really intimidated, but he'd be playing along and then think, I don't know what to do. And so he'd sneak up, he'd get a glass and he'd put it to the wall and listen through to see what the next one was doing. Then he'd go to the other wall. And anyway, a couple of years went by and they were sitting having lunch together, and and it turned out that when he confessed his sins, each of the other 4 said they were doing the same thing, always listening and see what else to get that new inspiration. And I think that's the key right there, is inspiration. Are you being inspired by the people that you're working with, or are you being challenged detrimentally where it's combative? And I think that inspiration, I've got to say Grant as well. Actually, he was brilliant in this collaboration because he kept me very grounded, kept me very rooted, and saying, hey, look, let's always stay focused. I get very passionate about what I'm getting involved in, but he kept me really well rooted and said, look, let's remember what is the core of what we're trying to do, and constantly kept me there.
That's the Yorkshire way, you see. The Yorkshire way is like just not messing around.
just get on and just do it. Stop overthinking. And that element, it was non-musical collaboration or support, but that was the thing that just kept me well rooted in the project. So again,
I feel like when you look at the mountain, you're never going to get there. I always tell the young composers just take that that first note, that first chord. Because I think if you look at the whole thing, you're just going to go, I'm just going to give up. You're never going to get there.
The beginning of every project is like that. Yeah. You have this blank page syndrome. Yeah. You think, I don't know what to do, and then you just write anything, and you just chip away little bit by bit.
That's procrastination is our best friend.
Yeah.
Because when I worked as a staff composer for 12 years, right, so I was very used to doing 9 to 5, for a long time. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that was a great regime to get into. It kind of makes you kind of go, I just start at 9 in the morning and start writing music. I'd have to sit in a darkened room waiting for the hand of the Lord to hand me inspiration. It's not like that. I just kind of go, I'm very workmanlike like that. I feel like it's 9 o'clock, right, let's get started. And I might write rubbish for the entire day, but I'll still write it. And I think that was really useful to me to do that for all those years, to kind of think that it's a 9 to 5 job. I'm just going to do it every day like the guy sweeps the streets or whatever, it's exactly the same, it's no different, so I do think that's a great way to get into it. But I think the imposter syndrome, I really associate with that. I really feel like I can never do it.
I learned so much from this panel. I'm a publicist, I have an imposter syndrome. I learned about climbing the mountain and taking step by step, and I learned about, it's about life also. It's like surround yourself with people that inspire you and that you inspire. And, I think it goes for artistry, but it goes for life. And there's tons of more subjects we could talk about, but I also think we should get ready for the awards, because one of you will get an award tonight. Maybe not actually, because one person is missing today. But congratulations, because you're all fantastic, and this was a really, really inspiring and nice conversation. I really thank you.